Yeah, she says, I saw Brian. I was right next to him.
Wow.
And so based on what I was told years ago, where the DoorDasher friend, I'll leave the relationship out of it. The DoorDasher's friend, acquaintance, colleague, family member, whatever you want to say, that Brian Kohberger had driven right past her.
We did hear
and that
that
they had, she had seen him.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'll get you off this one off the screen. The other you off the screen. We were watching your video. It was really good. I got like halfway through it because I was trying to watch the first video, the actual stop, I was trying to listen, and you couldn't really hear her when she was talking. Like, because she was like to the side and her head was kind of down and then up, and I'm like, I can't get her. So I was trying to put the closed captioning on and like the transcript. I'm like, what is this lady saying? And then I just was typing notes for like 3 hours, it seemed like. I was like, I would rather go through the notes than send anybody over, over to like the person's page, because they're really going after this woman hardcore.
Yeah. So first and foremost, like, thank you for inviting me on.
Well,
I
and
appreciate that.
Welcome up. Thank you for coming on.
Yes, ma'am. And I was surprised by it. I got the video this morning, and I went through it, and I understand why officers would have assumed that she may have been under the influence of something. She even mentioned that she took hydrocodone at some point in the day. My argument was that I don't think it's going to stick. The reason being is because it was an expired tag. So, just like alcohol, somebody could drink alcohol, and if they don't blow, you have to rely on the evidence that you have. And if somebody swerves or somebody does something, that's not necessarily a sign of intoxication. There's got to be other evidence. And if she got pulled over for a tag, and because of their conversation and she's hyperventilating, they feel that that's the case. I just don't think it's going to stick. Much less.
I think she was definitely scared. Like when she was wanting to be on the phone with her boyfriend, I felt bad for her. Like I was like, in the same, like I was like wanting her to put the phone down. I'm like, just put the phone down. But at the same time, I was like, hold the phone. I know you like I know you're probably stressing out. And then, then come to find out she drops all those bombs in the, saying like, her husband was shot 9 times in front of her. And then right after that, it was like, and then this, and I was like, what did I just hear? So I had to I had to go back a couple of times.
Yeah. And it didn't air out the way I have it on my phone. So I have a program on my phone that helps me denoise some things and pick up audio. And when I was listening to it on my phone with my headphones, doing everything, I can hear what she says a lot more clear. And when I try to play it, it was not the same. I was like, what happened? And so to me, what I hear her say is, I'm going to be testifying in the for the college girl murders. And then she mentioned something about that she saw Brian, and she says, I was next to him. And I got a message a while ago. I'm talking about right around the time Brian Kohberger got arrested. I have to go back and look at the exact date. I just took a screenshot of it earlier when I was trying to read the deal online. I could tell that the person that was writing to me was really nervous because they had some errors in some of the things that they were writing. But what she had told me was she identified who she was. She gave me her name, her phone number, her address, a bunch of identifying information. And she told me she was close with the DoorDasher, and that she's been staying low key, but that what she had basically told her was that she went out there, and that when she pulled up, there was a light on at the house, and that there was a girl in the window, and that a vehicle had passed by, and that when the vehicle had came back around, that the guy nearly had his head out the window. Like he was so intensely looking at the window that he didn't even notice her there. Now, I don't think she was able to identify Brian Kohberger. Basically, I was thinking about it as I was coming on. That would have been in the PCA. You would have tried to have gotten that lineup before his arrest, before the world knew who he was. And so I don't think she was able to identify him, but I do think she saw a male. And, you know, and it was dark, you know, somebody inside of their vehicle. But what she able to see was, it was a man just intensely focused in on the house, and that the DoorDasher, and the girl in the window kind of made eye contact, and then the girl in the window went down, and she took off.
Yeah, like she noticed I was the car coming to give her food, so it was probably Xana.
Yeah,
waiting
exactly.
for her food, and then she probably saw the car and wanted to beat her to the door, or meet her at the door.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Yeah, and again, I talked to this lady. She gave me a lot of information about herself. I gave that information to the Gonzalez family, and I knew that information was already with law enforcement, so and there was no really need to re-report that. You know what I mean? Because it was in the PCA that the DoorDasher had self-reported.
Yeah.
But what I didn't like about everything going on is that there is some sort of implication that this lady had meth in her vehicle, and that's far from the truth.
I know. I heard that from multiple creators, and I'm like, I got 56 seconds into one video, and I was livid because Ashley in my chat sent it to me. She sent me that video, or she actually told me about it. So I think maybe she saw your live first, or maybe watched both. But she sent me, she was talking about it. I said, I don't know why she should have just sent me that video link. She knew I was going to ask, because I said, is there a video link to this? Like, what are you trying to tell me? Like, the DoorDashers, what? And like, people were like, because she was like, people are going after her, like, they shouldn't be doing this. And I think Ashley came to me too, because I've been like through a lot of trauma. So I can kind of, relate to that lady going through some trauma. And I don't know how I would react if a cop had pulled over. I'd probably be a mess too, a ball of nerves shaking, and, like just be nervous. I said she might have had prior drug usage, like maybe years of it. We don't know. And maybe she's off of it. We don't know. But her body just was, she had like trauma or something in her body. I don't necessarily think that it was drugs. They said they were arresting her for the DUI, and they said, did you hear the it was like DUI? Oh, I have to find, okay. So they charged her with driving or being in actual physical control of a motor vehicle while under the influence of intoxicating liquor and or drugs. I've never heard of it like that broad. Like, it's usually like driving while impaired, driving under the influence. So, and it did say in Idaho that sometimes they'll let you, with the DUI, they'll let you.
Well, this was in Washington.
That's our second one. Oh, it's in Washington. Never mind. I thought this was in Idaho for some reason. I just looked up Idaho law.
No, it's Pullman, Washington.
Well, then never mind. Yeah, they did, because they told her to go to Pullman for the court date. I don't know why I didn't think about that.
To me,
she should have been in jail.
Right. She would have been in jail. The thing is, like, if there was drugs in the back of that car, right? And I know some of those that are, saying that it was drugs will probably point out and say, well, it was her boyfriend's car or boyfriend's truck, so they wouldn't have arrested her. And the first thing that came to my mind was, well, you don't think people have used that excuse before? This ain't my car. This ain't my truck.
Well, as soon as he said, was this in the back seat or something? Like, I think he was just like playing with her, which he shouldn't have been playing with her like that. She's already high anxiety, and you're like saying, what are these drugs in the back? Or, you know what I mean? And she was like, what? And you could tell, like, sincere. She was sincere in that moment, I believe. Like, she was literally like shook. She was like, what do you mean? And then she was like, she said something. I just remember her hands. Like, she, in my opinion, she literally did look shook. Like, like you're not, because he said, what's this mess in the back of your car? Like, meaning like he found a whole bunch of stuff or something.
Right.
Or he had found something, you know what I mean, to allude. And that just made her even more panicked, in my opinion.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And, I understand why the officers believe that she was under the influence. I too would have been very suspicious of her behavior. Now, they did a horizontal gaze and nystagmus, which is the, the pen trick to
I thought
determine.
She did good.
I couldn't tell. You can't tell if her eyes are bouncing or not. I didn't see her head move.
Yeah, I didn't see her head do any of this. Did you see her head move?
Not very much.
I didn't see much. Like, I didn't see it at all. She did.
Yeah. I was going to say, if any, very little. So that's usually a tell right there, that if somebody, you tell them, hey, I'm going to follow my pen, move your eyes, not your face, and they move their face, that's usually a pretty strong indication.
Yeah,
but I couldn't tell if her eyes actually were bouncing or not.
They were. couldn't tell that. I could just kind of tell that it looked like they were moving to where they were supposed to go.
Exactly. And then, the walk and turn and the one-legged stand, those are common standardized field sobriety tests. Now, I don't live in Washington, so I don't know if they have any other ones that are regulated or that are approved through the state. But in Texas, those are the only ones that are approved. But they did this one thing where they wanted her to look up, count to 30, and then look back down. And I've never seen that before.
I think anybody, and I mean, I think I'd get dizzy doing that.
Yeah.
What do you want me to do? What? And she did it perfect. Yeah. Like, to me, I was counting with her. She counted to 30. Like, I mean, we're counting about the same, I think. And she looked she looked right at that lady when because she wasn't good at making eye contact with the other lady as much, or the cops as much inside. But when they told her to make eye contact or look right at me, she made sure she looked right at her, like at that moment. So, I mean, she was able to do those tests. I thought fairly well.
Yeah, she was able to do those tests. And in the end, like I said, I understand why she blew zeros. They end up pulling her out just before midnight, and she still wasn't making a lot of eye contact. She wasn't as hyperventilating as she was before, but she was still acting up, but she was also getting out. So, the fear and the threat and all that's probably coming down because of that.
Yeah.
If somebody is under the influence of a drug or alcohol, releasing them at midnight is usually not a good thing. Just being honest. And so, I strongly suspect that, they told her she blew zeros. I know that she may have had some kind of drug in there, but just because somebody takes a drug, you have to be impaired by that drug.
Yeah.
And you have to have evidence of that impairment, and an expired tag is not an evidence of an impaired driving. So I don't think it's going to stick.
That's true.
That's where I was at. I was like, I'm not saying that she wasn't driving intoxicated or any of those things. I'm just saying, based on what I know from the law, I don't think it's going to stick. It's not going to stay. It's probably going to get dropped down even further.
I wonder if there's anything out there right now on it.
From what I've heard people say, that the only thing that she's been charged with was the DWI and then the traffic violation, but she has no arrest from what I understand. I haven't looked into it myself, so I don't know, but some of the folks that are in my Discord, which I want to say hello to Sirius and Extreme Blonde. They're the ones that told me that this was happening and to come check you out.
Oh, thank you.
And so, in my Discord, they were telling me that they looked up her charges and there was nothing for possession. There's never been anything for possession or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like I said,
you think she'd have a possession charge if she was really that bad off on drugs? Usually you get caught by a certain point. She's 45 by her, by the birth date. Or I was doing the math. I think she's that was her age. But you know what I mean? I don't know. I just
and I don't
like the way I don't like the way that people are going after her. She's an eyewitness. She's we don't even know if they're going to put her on the stand right now. They probably will. I mean, I don't see why they would. I don't know if she's going to have to go in there, but she might have wanted her identity to be concealed at trial. Like Dylan and, Bethany, they may have theirs concealed maybe at trial, but now she doesn't have that option because she's here on the internet.
Yeah.
Someone got to you. But it took over 2 years before, before I seen anything like this with her name or, a video about her or anything. This is the first time I've heard of it. So,
I agree. And, I know that somebody put out a video saying how they got her name and how they discovered her, and they were looking through the back doors of DoorDash. But I don't know. I'm very suspicious how this information got out.
I heard that too, and I was asking Ashley actually about that, and you reminded me because I was like, Ashley, where's the document that's going to tell me? Because I thought I was losing my mind. I thought maybe it's out there. Maybe it is out there, but I said that tells me that what the DoorDash's number is. DoorDash identification number 534358 or whatever, you know what I mean? Because if that would have been an illegal document, don't you think we would have all looked that up? Because I looked through the legal documents and I couldn't find it today. When I went back through them, I was going through the ones from previous years, and I only DoorDash I could find was just when they wanted Ethan and Xana's DoorDash records.
Exactly. And I haven't seen anything that would have identified who the DoorDasher is.
Yeah. I mean, I literally looked through almost every single document. Like I scrolled and was like, when they were doing like the redacting, of like Google and whatever, I was going through all those, like make sure it wasn't like hidden in there. I didn't see it. So,
yeah. I'm very, very skeptical and suspicious on how that her name got out to certain people and for them to do a Freedom of Information Act to get her arrest stuff, because this has nothing to do with Moscow. There's nothing to do with the murders and stuff like that. And yet, somebody had to have gotten tipped, and this isn't something that the prosecution would want out there. They don't want to invalidate the credibility of a witness that they plan on calling out. This is I'm not saying it's anybody that did this, but it just looks suspicious to me.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about too, like the timing of it. Like this,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it's just really weird, like for this to be coming up, because like the prosecution's trying to be, on their best behavior because of the Dateline episode, and them thinking that they have a leak. The judge kind of thinking that it might be more the prosecution than the defense or whatnot. But then to have this come out, I mean, it doesn't look good. Doesn't look good. So I mean, it would benefit Brian Kohberger. I think it could.
Maybe.
Like, I mean, if people,
if they're waiting still on the other DWI stuff, right? That means it's pretty recent, which is probably another reason why she was freaking out. She just got arrested. She's probably like, oh my God, I'm back here. They're going to deny my bond. I'm going to stay in jail. I mean, there's a lot of things that are probably going through her mind, but, her testimony or her statement about what occurred that night happened almost over 2 years ago. So, unless it changes all of a sudden, it changes today and like, it was for sure Brian Kohberger or something like that. And the defense might have something to bring this up, but I don't know if they would be able to bring up something like this. I'd have to ask my lawyer friend.
Yeah, ask your lawyer. Yeah, ask your lawyer friend. Let me know. Google's my lawyer friend. That's why I'm like, I'm going to Google.
Yeah.
At least I'll let people know where I'm going. Thanks, Ladybug, for the super chat. So thankful for this channel. I appreciate that. I have some questions. I just don't know what they are yet right now. I know I'm going to have questions though. I can't believe you heard all that. I told myself, I was like, put on some headphones, like just put in your headphones. I was like, no, you can hear it. And I'm over here like staring at the screen. I'm blind in one eye. So I'm like trying to look at, the transcript and the closed captioning at the same time and hear. So I'm like constantly like, I was like every 2 seconds, I'm like pausing it. I probably should have watched your video and then went back, like did like a reversal, but I didn't do it that way because I got, more info. But I saw a couple shorts on that one person's channel because I was over there like before I looked at the video, because I was like, I know I've heard this name and I'm pretty sure this person used to come in my chat like before, like this was probably like 2 years ago or more, like way, and I think we just had differencing of views. So, that's why she's not in the chat anymore. But it's just, but it's not like difference of a like point of views. I could deal with that. I mean, I love people that don't like think the same as me. But I feel like there's just like some of the stuff out there is just so far gone. It's like, come on, guys, let's bring it back in. Like if you guys don't, if we think if we're going to say Brian's innocent, then we have to think that somebody smarter than Brian did this, because this takes somebody pretty smart, I think, to get away with it for 6 weeks, only leave a little bit of DNA. I think somebody with a criminology degree would do a good job in that. You'd have to think above that then. So, is this person like they're just smarter than 140 IQ? I don't know.
Well, I mean, one of the things that is commonly said in my chat is that, Brian Kohberger took his own car, took his phone with him, left the knife sheath. He made a bunch of dumb mistakes. They don't believe it was him. But I'm like, if he made so many dumb mistakes as you're pointing out, why are you so surprised he got caught?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, he's smart, he's intelligent, he's not perfect, he's not a robot. And somebody to want to commit a crime like this isn't wired right. Regardless of how intelligent that they are, they're still not wired right. And they're still going to do things that are wrong. They're still going to make mistakes. They're still narcissists. They still have, these thoughts that are delusions of grandeur and things of that nature.
They think things are going to go smoother than what they are.
Correct. And just because he's intelligent doesn't mean that he's incapable of committing a crime. Ted Kaczynski is a guy that was considered a prodigy in his youth, and he ended up committing a violent crime himself. And so, and many others, but, it's sometimes the dumbest mistakes, like BTK, for instance. He was on a spree, and granted, he was in a time when DNA and technology probably isn't as strong as it is today, but, he had a long spree and they could not capture him. They could not catch him. And yet he made a dumb mistake by using a floppy disk after he asked law enforcement. So people make dumb mistakes. And
it was because he was getting cocky too.
Exactly.
He was getting that confidence in him. Yeah. And I'm ready for this trial. Are you going to be there? Are you going to go to the trial?
I plan on going towards the end of it. I want to be there for the closing arguments and deliberations and the verdict.
See, you're opposite of me. I like opening statements. But then I like opening, because then they usually tell you what's going to be going on. Like they give you pretty much like the case. I feel like what they're going to kind of lay out for you for trial. And I don't know. I just feel like you learn a lot during opening statements, but closing arguments and final deliberations would be good to go to.
Yeah.
Like if I could go for one day, I'd go for opening statements.
There you go. Yeah. I got to be strategic because there's a lot of things that are going on during that time. But yeah, I'm trying to get there for the end of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do plan on going there. I plan on streaming it. I plan on doing a bunch of things when it comes to the case. I'm going to stream the June 18th hearing that's coming up in I think next week. The continuance, which I think is going to be denied. Me personally, I think it's going to get denied.
That's what I've been saying too. I'm like, they didn't send out those subpoenas to Pennsylvania, Nevada for Bethany. Like they're not doing all that stuff just to have to say, oh, never mind. Like, just kidding. Like, we don't really need you. We're going to, she wants an indefinite continuance. It said.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, tell Steve Gonzalez that.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think there's going to be a continuance. A lot of the things that she was arguing before the deadline, she had argued before for the death penalty to be taken off the table, and the judge shot her down completely because she picked up another DP case. She picked up she's not asked for help or any of those type of things.
Yeah, he's like, he haven't asked for any help. I mean, I understand her like OCD or whatever it is to look at everything. But you got to be able to be like, just bring me the stuff of importance.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? You got to be able to put that job onto someone else when you're in that position. You're not in that role anymore where she could be like a Jay Logston or whatever, looking at all this stuff, and going through it. Like, what's he been doing? He's like her counsel when he's sitting in the office. Is he going through evidence? I said this channel would have been through it all. So if you would have given it to us 2 years ago, we would have went through it. Got through it.
Yeah, you can go through things at faster speed than just normal speed, especially because a lot of it is video evidence, from what I understand. That's
what I'm assuming too.
Yeah, that's what they make it appear to be when they talk about much of it being video surveillance evidence that's outside of the time or scope of the crime. So
yeah, that's what we were going over last night, like the different when he was coming in, when he was leaving, the day after, that day. He was all over the place, and cameras saw him, and good cameras too. I mean, university cameras. I wonder if there's a way to get out of Pullman without going down like by the Washington State or cameras. Like he was really just right. Cameras there.
I think in a way he was hoping to get caught on those cameras in Pullman. I think that what essentially I think ended up screwing him over is the fact that he ended up seeing Dylan. Now, whether for a reason he didn't attack her, but I think he was aware of her, whether she made a sound like be quiet at some point, or if he saw her when she opened the door or heard the door open and close, he knew he had to get out of there. And I think that him turning on his phone when he did was probably the curiosity aspect. Curiosity kills the cat aspect of things.
Yeah.
Where he's like, somebody saw me, there's got to be something on the radio, something on the news, something going on.
Yeah.
And so he turns on his phone for that reason. But I think
I thought maybe he got lost on the way back.
Well, he also used the VPN, apparently. He signed in somewhere and used the VPN. But for a guy that is super intelligent in forensic based or
Yeah.
cloud based stuff, technology, he didn't
VPN doesn't
realize.
really do much, does it though? It's only like it's supposed to conceal you, like when you're like in a coffee shop. I heard is a good time to use a VPN.
Well, in a phone situation, so Steve's an IT guy, and he kind of explained it that there is a way to do, like, had he had a phone or a computer somewhere, and he
Mhm.
had his phone linked to that computer, and there was a VPN somewhere else, and then at that point, it would have made him look like he was somewhere else throughout the entire time if he would have kept his phone on. But what he did was he turned his phone on and then logged into a VPN, and
So it didn't pick it up.
there was a connection from the phone to the towers. Now, because he wasn't, I think, tied off to a laptop,
Mhm.
every time he changed towers, it would briefly connect him. Boom, boom. Which is why there's like gaps on the
Yeah.
map, and it's not continuous. It's because it's catching the tower and then hitting a VPN, catching the tower and then a
Oh.
VPN.
Yeah,
And
because I was
so,
asking Vincent like about VPNs, and he was just like, oh, when you're like in a coffee shop, like I was like, well, that helps a lot. It was though a long time ago though. It was when someone had like a VPN, they were doing like a promo or something for one. I was like, what's a VPN?
yeah,
And I saw
yeah.
you like he was like, just kind of like if you're in a coffee shop, you want to hide your information or
Yeah.
whatever. You don't want anyone to know your information. And I was
Well,
like, okay.
your location. So if you're in a coffee
Mhm.
shop, you can put in a VPN and you can put that you're somewhere else. A lot of people use it for like, well,
I hear people
the
mess up
NFL
too.
Sunday ticket is expensive.
Yeah.
And so in the United States, if you were to purchase, oh God, there's this other cheaper version. I think it's just like NFL.com. But outside of the States, you can get this cheaper version of it, and it costs significantly less.
Yeah.
But you can't get in the United States. You have to go through Sunday Ticket. And so what some people do is they'll get a VPN and put themselves in like Britain so that they can watch the NFL games through there.
Ah, smart.
Yeah. Some people also do that with like Netflix and things like that because there's certain channels that or certain shows that are shown in certain countries and not in others.
Oh yeah. So you just do the VPN. Oh, I never would have thought. I never
Yeah.
would have known that.
Yeah. So he tried to use one of those on his phone, but he made the mistake that because he was moving and in order to get the VPN, he's not on Wi-Fi. Like if he was on Wi-Fi, that would be different. But since
Okay.
he's using cell service, he has to connect to the cell tower.
So it was just like bouncing off of it, and it
Yeah,
was just pinging on
he'd have
him?
to connect to the tower first, and then it would give him a different location.
Oh.
But it would still connect to his phone, giving
So
him
why didn't he
the
leave his phone on and then connect to a different location, right?
well, the smarter thing would have been to do something like that. But
Yeah.
you know, based on the documents, he started to forensically delete his stuff at school within 3 days. He stopped using his credit card.
Yeah.
Something happened that escalated him to go out there and do it and do it fairly quickly, you
Yeah.
know, and mistakes were made.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like anything else. You can be trained in a lot of things, but the very first time that you go out there and things hit the fan, sometimes that training goes out the window.
Yeah. And I think that if you're maybe counting on maybe only unaliving one person or two people, or maybe not four, and I don't know why you wouldn't think you would be unaliving four people in a house full of people. You see 50 cars outside, but if he was going in there just to like unalive one person or kill one person, like I don't know.
Well, I think so there was some text messages between him and a friend of his that went out on like News Nation, and he
Mhm.
talked about wanting to be involved in high profile crimes. He talked about being the detective to solve them.
Mhm.
Now, his life was falling apart. He was a heroin addict at one point in his life.
Yeah.
He was losing his job as a TSA. He lost his job as a law enforcement officer or security guard at the high school that he attended. And I'm not talking about when he was there, which he did get kicked out, but I'm talking about afterwards. He became a security officer there,
Yeah.
and then he was forced to resign.
Mhm.
All those things aren't indications of somebody that's going to be hired or that somebody that would pass a background check. And
Yeah.
so, if his illusion or delusion is to be involved in high profile crimes and he can't be the police officer, now he wants to be the victim. There's only one other role. And to me, I think that in some way, I do believe that he wanted to create a large high profile crime. And one way you do that is with multiple victims or a or a mystery that has a lot of people to point the finger towards. And so if you have a house of 6 people, and let's just say, because I believe that his target was Kaylee. Let's just say that his target was Kaylee and she was in the bedroom, and either he abducted her or took her life, but was because there wasn't somebody else there, he was able to do it quietly. And then gets out. That's going to be a huge mystery. And you have 5 other people that you can point the finger towards, like, hey, that person was involved, that person. That's going to build a huge crime. Now, if you have multiple people in there and multiple victims, that's going to build a huge crime. There was a couple whose lives were taken by a stabbing in the middle of the night. It also happened on the 13th day of the month. And this was a couple of years prior to this. And a lot of people were looking at that case to try to figure if that case had something to do with the Idaho case. Now, that case never got any traction until there was the thought that there was a possible serial killer. But on its own, it didn't get the high profile traction that either multiple victims would, or if you can attribute to multiple crimes to. And so I think that it was multifaceted why he chose this house. I think he chose it because there could be either multiple victims, but I also think, to me, the White Park thing, him saying that's where he was going to be at, I wouldn't be surprised if he did have an intention of taking somebody out there, and it just didn't happen, because Kaylee was in Maddie's room.
That's true. See, I always thought maybe Maddie was the target, but I used to think Kaylee. Now I think more Maddie, but I don't know.
Well, here's why I think it's Kaylee. So if you look at the house, right? And you go up the stairs, the first room that you would open is actually Kaylee's room, and then it would be Maddie's. Now, what do we know? Based on the documents, the defense pointed out that Dylan had stayed a couple of different things. And one of the things that she said was that she had heard who she thought was Kaylee going up the stairs with Murphy. And in that document, I believe she mentions that they know that obviously it couldn't have been Kaylee because Kaylee was already deceased. Now, let's think about this. We know that the backsliding glass door was remained open throughout the entire time of the crime. We know that because during the altercation in Xana's room, Murphy's outside barking based on the same information. It was on the same documents that they were talking about. They did a test. Murphy was outside. So the backsliding glass door was left open due to the 911 call and everything else that's come about that. We know that Xana's room was left open. We know that Kaylee's room was left open because
I thought Kaylee's room was closed. That's why I always thought Murphy was in there.
No, that was one of the things that the defense pointed out. They said that the door was open and Murphy was in there and he wasn't covered in blood. Now, I don't understand what the significance of that is to say that it wasn't Brian Kohberger, but that was one of the things that
it's
Ann
weird.
Taylor,
The way they word it in the PCA is a little different. It's like he says like he enters or something, and or he says like something about the door being closed, I thought, and they entered earlier, like before he had got there, and they took the dog out or something like that.
Right, but in Ann Taylor's, I think it was either in trial or in a document, she mentions that because of the body cam, that they know that Kaylee's door was open and Murphy was in there without any blood or anything like that.
Okay, that's so weird to me.
Okay,
was he in a cage? Was he in a kennel?
No, because he was outside barking at 4:17 a.m.
So
he was loose. He ran outside, and then at some point he ran back into his room, probably afraid, in fear. Went to the place that he was most comfortable with.
Yeah, that's so sad. He was only 11 months old.
Right. So
that's really sad.
So he was also.
I thought this whole time that in my brain, I thought Kaylee was in her bed. This is how I pictured it, even though they said they were together. I pictured Kaylee in her room and their doors being like open or slightly open to where she could maybe see if she got up. Because there's a picture of looking in the back of Kaylee's room, and it looks like her bed's been turned down. Like on one side, like she just got out to go look for something. And I thought in my head, Murphy jumped off the bed with her and she turned around and she said, "Hey, Murphy, there's someone here." Like that's when you hear there's someone here. And that's her talking to the dog and then closing the door and then turning around, noticing it's not Maddie's boyfriend and there's something wrong. Like she runs in there. That's how I pictured it. But now that they're saying that the bedroom door was open and he was out running around, then he came back in.
Yeah. So that tells me that the backsliding glass door was open the entire time.
Well, I know
Now,
the front door they said was open.
somebody
There's like
said the front door was open, but it
there's a
was
Fox News, and then the
right.
New York Post ran it. Yeah, the neighbor said it or something that the door was
But
open.
Chief Fry said it on 2 occasions that it wasn't. He said he doesn't know
Mhm.
where they got that from, and
Okay,
he said it in a press conference. Then he said it at a Christmas parade,
because they did
and
say something about the back slider being open. Like I
yeah,
heard that before this, but I never could find
it, it
where
was
people
on
had
the
said it.
second. It was the second conference. He said that he doesn't know anything about the front door being open, and then in another part he said, and the door was still open when officers arrived. So
I
if he
think I
doesn't
remember
know
that.
about the front door being open, it must be the back sliding glass
Yeah,
door being
I
open.
think I do
And
remember that.
and I've been able to confirm that with um, some folks that
Just to let
the
you know.
back sliding glass door was in fact remained open. Now,
Okay.
reason why you do that is because if you touch the door once, you have the possibility of leaving your DNA behind. If you close it behind you, that's twice. Then when you leave, you've already taken the life of somebody,
Mhm.
or whatever the case may be. You've exerted yourself. That is the most possible opportune time that you're going to leave DNA behind
Yeah.
when you open it to get out. So
Yeah.
the dog going out during the altercation tells me that the backsliding glass door was open. If you go to the May 2020 essay or whatever it is that he wrote on investigations,
Uh-huh.
he specifically mentions to check the door for DNA because people on their way out would leave DNA. So he kept
Mm,
that in his mind. That's why he left
yeah.
the backsliding glass door open. And so to me, the only MO that we know
Yeah.
is that this person leaves the doors open.
Yeah.
So if he went upstairs, now Murphy's a young dog.
Yeah.
I strongly would suspect that Kaylee wouldn't just let Murphy roam the house at night. She probably would
That's what
close the
I
door.
yeah. That's
So
what I
if
think.
the door, if Murphy ran downstairs to alert Xana, if that's because I think that's what happened,
Yeah.
that he ran downstairs. Xana's like, "What are you doing?" Took him upstairs. Probably saw the backsliding glass door open. Maybe even heard what was going up on upstairs and said, "I think someone's here."
Mhm.
Now, if Brian Kohberger entered that house and went into Maddie's room first, then Murphy wouldn't have been able to get out of Kaylee's room because it was close. Now, if Brian Kohberger went into Kaylee's room first and opened the
Mhm.
door and left it open, then went into Maddie's room, that would have given the opportunity for Murphy to go
Yeah.
downstairs and to alert Xana, and for Xana to get
Yeah.
up and to go upstairs. So it doesn't work unless either Kaylee left the door open the entire night and Murphy was free to roam around the house the entire night, or the first door that was open was
Yeah.
Kaylee's room, which allowed Murphy to go out to downstairs to alert Xana. Those are the
Or
only two possibilities, in my opinion.
yeah. Or unless I mean, for some reason, Murphy was scared of the stairs and wouldn't go down them. I mean, and just go like to Maddie and Kaylee's room, but I doubt it. I mean, he's a puppy.
Right. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
he's up in Kaylee's room initially,
Yeah.
and he goes down to Xana's room because
Mhm.
Dylan at one point says, according to the court documents, or maybe in the court, I don't remember if it was Ann Taylor in court when she was mentioning the different statements that Dylan made. But
Mhm.
one of the statements that she made was that she heard who she thought was Kaylee
Yeah.
going upstairs with Murphy.
Yeah. Yeah, I did read that.
And so Kaylee she already been deceased. So that had to have been Xana. And
Yeah,
so
it might
for
have been from
Xana,
court, but I read it.
yeah, for Xana to be going upstairs with Murphy would have had to have come downstairs. So either that door was always open
Mhm.
or the intruder opened that door first, which should tell us a little bit of something about who he was targeting first.
Yeah. Yeah, and you would know I mean, you would know the bedrooms. I mean, if you're looking from back here, Maddie's has a big M in her window. I mean, her name's in her window and her boots. Like
Yeah.
that's, I mean, that shows. I do you think that he was looking at like Zillow listings to figure out the layout?
He may have. I mean, before there's this one, and I still have it. It's not up anymore, but for some reason I have the link and it still works for me. But there used to be this like 3D tour of the house. That
Oh
didn't
yeah,
come
I
out.
have it.
Yeah, that didn't come out until after the murders. So up until that point, there was just like Zillow and apartment.com or
Mhm.
whatever the case may
Yeah.
be. And all of those had pictures. I don't necessarily know if they had the layout per se. They may have, but I remember seeing a bunch of pictures for the most part. And, because I remember when this first happened, I was going through those pictures trying to figure out which room was what and what bedroom was where. And
Yeah, it was so confusing.
yeah,
Remember
exactly.
when everyone was trying to figure out what like what the house looked like on the inside, because we
Yeah.
are all like, trying to figure things out, but nobody like, we needed an architect or something back then. That house was built weird.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, it was added too. It was.
yeah,
It was.
yeah. That's what I mean. Like when they added on the additions, they just, what kind of lumber you have today? It seems like, we'll take
Yeah.
whatever you got. But I'm going to put that one link for that housing thing back in the chat, because it's working again. Did
Good
you
deal.
see that it wasn't working for a while?
Yeah, I had it saved somewhere, and I'd opened it up, and or I tried to Google search it, and I couldn't find it. And then I went through my links that I have saved, and I clicked on it, and it works through my
Oh, okay.
links.
I
So
put it
I
back
do
in here,
have it.
like
Yeah.
the Kula or whatever it is.
Yes, that one.
Yeah,
Exactly.
because it wouldn't let me like navigate around for the longest time. And I was trying to write the guy. I was like, I need you to fix this, because this is like my visual for like my visual aid for myself when I'm
Yeah.
like, even when I'm like putting stuff together for the cases. And I was like, I need this. But yeah,
Yeah,
they
check it
fixed
out.
it. Yeah, it's
Check it out.
really
Kaylee's room is the first one upstairs. And my opinion is he went to that room first, which would make sense if he went in there and she wasn't there, and then he looked into Maddie's room and he saw her,
yeah.
and he has to climb over somebody to get to her. Now that's something that's pissed him off, which is why she has the other injuries, the more severe ones.
Yeah.
And then Ethan has different injuries as well. His legs are gone. So
They're all like listed different. Maddie and Kaylee's are listed the same, but they're not like, I know they're not the same, but they're like listed as the same. Like sharp forced injuries or something. And then Ethan's different than Xana's and the girls. It's really weird how they worded that, And I think that I mean, Anne might take that and be like, this wasn't done with all the same weapon, because they would have been worded all the same. Or I don't know what she's going to pull, but I have a feeling she'll pull something like that.
yeah.
So yeah, if you walk up the stairs, this is the first bedroom to the right. So that would be Kaylee's room. Yeah. So, I mean,
and like I said, it doesn't make sense if he were to, because like I said, either Kaylee left the door open and Murphy was allowed to go in and out and up and down the stairs and throughout the entire house, or that door was opened first, because it would be impossible, in my opinion at least, for him to have gone into Maddie's room and then into Kaylee's room, then for Murphy to get out, go downstairs, alert Xana, then Xana to walk. She's not running, she's probably taking and walking, and then going upstairs and then hearing something or whatever. So it just doesn't make any sense. It would have to be either the intruder opened Kaylee's door first, or Kaylee left it open the entire night. And I just don't believe that Kaylee would leave it open all night, especially being it was a young animal and she had roommates and things like that.
Yeah. And then what if the dog went all the way to the first floor and couldn't, find its way back up? Like, I think she'd like get lost, I think she'd be worried Murphy would get himself lost like that. And now that I'm like looking at it from this vantage point, you probably, if you were on the second floor, let's say you're coming up to the third floor, you might not know anything that's going on the third floor until you like hit that second landing.
Yep.
Like, because that wall's in the way, you kind of would absorb some of the sound and noise.
Yeah. You definitely wouldn't be able to see anything.
But it's all floor, like the wood floors. Every room has those wood floors in it. You'd think you'd hear scuffles and sounds, but I mean, maybe not where they were. I mean, especially Bethany. She was all the way down at the bottom. She was in that little cocoon of like in the wall, or in the hill there. So she had like a lot of
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, the audio from the house next door, 50 feet away, we all heard what the sounds were. It didn't sound like anybody screaming or kicking or none of those. You hear what I think is, it sounds like a bed scrooching over. That thud noise sounds like somebody throwing themselves on the bed and the bed kind of moving over and like hitting against the wall, because you kind of hear that sound of friction from the bottom of the bed.
Now that you're like saying it like that, I feel like I can hear that part of the bed, like or something. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to that again.
Yeah, like if you moved a desk or something across a hardwood floor, like that noise. And so that's what I hear. And it does, which kind of makes sense why Dylan or Bethany didn't call 911. They didn't hear screams, kicking, yelling, those things. You know what I'm saying?
And I don't think you necessarily would if you were in a knife attack. I think you'd be wanting to save your energy for fighting off the, the intruder that's coming at you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just what I would think anyway. That, because a lot of people come in the chat and like, well, why didn't we hear screaming? And I'm like, that's why I think, because I mean, they were fighting for their life.
Well, the Howard Bloom said that in certain articles he's written and he said in interviews that I've had with him that the throat may have been a target for some of these victims.
I believe that.
If that's the case, you can't really scream. You know what I'm saying? I've seen, how can I put it? So I've seen things that were at the crime scene at one point that are not being used in trial. They're not part of any gag order. They were actually released. These items were released to the family members. And this is part of the victim's personal property. And I could say, based on the items that I've seen, that I would believe that Howard Bloom is correct.
Okay, and what did Howard Bloom say again?
That the throat was involved.
Oh, the throat. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So they gave them back items that were had stuff on them? Maybe?
I don't want to go into details, but enough for me to say that may have been the case.
That is heartbreaking. Was it a white table?
I've seen a white table, but that's not what made me think the way I think.
Okay.
I saw a white dresser, but yeah. And it was a different item that would have been on the floor.
Yeah.
And
do you know if because I was wondering this, do you know if Kaylee and Maddie had the same end tables in the rooms? Like the little white ones with the drawer? I think they had 2 drawers or something like that.
Maybe.
Because we saw, because I was looking at videos the other day, when they were bringing out the mattresses, and they had a table and it looked just like that white table, but it was wrapped in red stuff, but you could see the legs or something. Something made me know it was that table. But then
they have a mirror.
The cops walked out and they were carrying the personal belongings of the victims. They had a white table, but it looked like Maddie's side table. And I'm like, but that's white. I couldn't see anything on it from where we were, how we were watching it. Yeah. So I didn't know if maybe there was something on it we just didn't see. And that's sad.
Yeah.
Nobody should. I mean, I heard how they got the belongings back. They said before they were wearing hats with light on it. And then her items were in a storage warehouse or something, like a warehouse type of feel. And they were going around trying to they didn't even have, I guess, all the victims' belongings, all of Kaylee's stuff for hers and all Maddie's stuff for hers. It was everyone's was mixed in, and you don't know what your college kid has. You know what I mean? Good thing they took a lot of pictures and videos. If I was her mom, I would be on every video, every picture, writing down every outfit, or you know what I mean, just so I could
the way you say that they was all mixed up. That's what I recall. Because that makes sense. That makes the most sense based on what I saw. Because I believe what I saw was in Xana's room at one point, and so but that's my belief. I mean, I have I'm 99.9% positive that's where it was at. Yeah. But it would make sense because now that you mention it, it did seem like there was some things that were mixed around there.
Yeah, yeah. They said that they had to. It's sad, and they probably wouldn't know which was whose. I mean, really. I mean, that's my mom didn't know what I had in college. I mean, she kind of knew my outfits maybe, but nothing really like that. You know what I mean? Maybe a couple things, but I don't think she'd really know what was mine. And that's
true too. I think the only person that probably you could tell whose was what was probably Ethan's, just based on the fact that he male. He didn't live there, so
he didn't live there.
The items that he would have had would have been personal items to him.
Yeah, that's true.
But so I've seen some of that stuff, but I would say that that's accurate. And I think that's the reason why they weren't yelling. I think they were coughing.
Yeah, and they said I don't know if I read it in the documents or where we heard it. Maybe so don't just take this with a grain of salt. So I don't know where I heard it, but maybe that's how they got Ethan Was maybe they like if they went for like a main artery or something like
That's what the Dateline said. The
it was the
Dateline said
Dateline.
that,
Okay.
yeah, that with one swift blow to an artery, and I'm
'Cause
assuming it's this one.
yeah.
And it sounds like he was asleep in bed. It sounds like,
Mhm.
from
I
what
think so
I
too.
understand and from
Yeah.
everything that I have heard, it sounds like Xana was the third person to be attacked,
Yeah.
and then Ethan was the last. And then he may
Me
have
too.
gone back to Xana or stayed with Ethan. I
Yeah.
don't know, but it sounds like at least at one point Xana was attacked before Ethan, and it doesn't sound like Ethan woke up from that.
Yeah, I don't
And
think he did
so,
either.
you
And I
know,
looked it up. I was like, "Man, if someone ever comes and gets my computer, I'm done." Like my Google
yeah,
searches are so bad. But I asked like, "What if like someone were to like hit a carotid artery or something like that? Like how long? Like and they said within seconds you would be unconscious. So
yeah.
that's, I mean, if that's the way that they went, that is better than the
That
alternatives of like,
and like shock and stuff kicks in, and so
mhm,
100%, and that's probably why you don't hear screams and stuff too. Is like probably went into shock, they were surprised. A lot of people say that it was impossible to do. The detectives went in there and just by either moving quickly, and they
mhm.
did it between 2 minutes and 4 minutes, and
Oh,
they
wow.
attributed, yeah, I think I read that in one of the documents that they were able to go in there, and it took them between 2 minutes and 4 minutes. One was walking faster, one was walking slower, and it accounted for every wound that the victims had. So they
Oh,
went in there, they walked up the stairs, in the manner that they believed that the guy did,
mhm.
and they had dummies there, and they utilized the wounds that the victims' bodies had
Wow.
and the blood splatter on the walls and things to recreate with the arm movements and
Mhm.
each injury, and they were able to account for every one of them based on the blood splatter and based on the injuries.
Yeah.
And it only took him between 2 to 4 minutes. And so he was in there for about, I mean, he pulls in around about 8:07. I think at that
Mhm.
time is when he's probably putting things on. So he's probably in the house around 8:09. And he's, um, so Dylan sees him, and then they have a phone conversation. She calls Bethany. That phone call happens
Mhm.
at 4:19, so she would have already had seen the intruder. So the intruder had left about 4:18. So
Yeah.
you're looking at about 9 minutes total in there. So there's an extra 5 minutes of him doing something in
Yeah.
that house. But when he goes outside, he leaves at about 4:18. The video that sees him leaving is like 4:20 and like 48 seconds.
Uh-huh.
And so he's outside for about 2 minutes doing something. My guess is he's either taking off all of his clothing or
Yeah.
he's putting on another suit, maybe a hazmat type suit. So that way it
Yeah.
contains all the evidence inside of that until he can get somewhere where he can change and take all of it off together collectively.
Yeah, that's true. Do you think that he, kept, like, the knife or anything, or do you think he threw that in the Snake River? You think he buried it?
Well, he's a narcissist. If he committed this crime, he's a narcissist. He's self-indulged.
Mhm.
Um, he was looking for another knife. Now, I don't think it was because he was expecting somebody to come to his door and say, "Hey, where's your knife?" Right? If they were
Mhm.
doing that, they would have seen that he purchased two. It would have been busted, right? So,
Yeah.
um, he's doing that because, in my opinion, he's going to purchase another one. Now, if he's purchasing another one, it's either because
Mhm.
he doesn't have access to the first one or it was damaged.
Yeah.
One of the two. So,
I'm
I'm
just
not
think
sure.
I go back and forth. I was thinking maybe he threw it in the Snake River or something, but then I'm like, that one, search
His real
warrant for his
keys.
house.
Oh, never mind. Go ahead.
Oh, the search warrant for his house, it says, like, knife, and that's the only knife that's listed on there that isn't descriptive. Like, the other ones say, like, Blue Ridge, like, pocket folding knife or something.
I've
I'm
been
just
able to
wondering.
confirm that. So, there was a document where there was where it was referring to the K-bar knife sheath, and it was talking about the DNA, and it said that there was DNA that was recovered that matched Brian Kohberger that was recovered on a K-bar knife, and they forgot the word sheath.
Mhm.
And there was another creator that was going around saying, "Oh, they found the K-bar knife. They found the K-bar knife." So I contacted Steve, and Steve contacted the Bill Thompson, and Bill told him that it was a mistake, that it was supposed to say K-bar knife sheath, and that they hadn't at that time found it. And so it was not found at that time. They did not have access. They did not have it. And then here recently, when the judge mentioned, the display case for a knife, I asked about that, and I've confirmed that that's for a demonstrous exhibit, a replica, to show the jury that this was the type of knife that was used to cause the injuries.
Yeah, when they said the display box, that's what I figured would be put in there. So I didn't. Yeah, I guess I should have answered my own question there. Because people were asking that in this chat too. I think like we were going over, maybe it was that court hearing that day or something, and they were like, "What, they're going to have the knife there? They're going to display it?" And I'm like, "No." I was like, "No, they wouldn't. They're not going to do that." I'm like, "I don't think so." And then we heard that it was like a replica or whatever, so that they could. I mean, it might be a K-bar knife. Who knows? But
yeah, well, it's probably a K-bar, but it's not the K-bar. It's a demonstrative.
Yeah. Wow, I'm ready for this trial to start. And like you said, I don't think they're going to continue it either. I've been saying that over here. I'm like, he's not continuing this. That judge is ready to go.
Yeah.
I mean, he's seen cases big like this before. This isn't John Judge, where you go to him for like a DUI or something like that. I feel like he's like, would be like a good judge for like, some of those cases. But like this was a big case. And I think even for him, like, he was given a lot of the stuff to the defense without like questioning it. And then Judge Hippler came in and was like, no, like the first, chance he got. Then, he was going to actually let the seals kind of come out like down a little bit too. He wasn't going to seal everything. He was just going to redact stuff, he said. But then they've been sealing everything, I think, since Dateline kind of happened. It was like, we got the 911 call, we got this and that. I was like, man, we're getting stuff. And then Dateline came out and it closed up again. So hopefully, on the 18th, he'll say that, that this isn't going to be continued. I'm glad that part is open. I wish we could see the alternate perpetrators. I would love to hear what Ann Taylor's putting on for that defense.
Yeah.
I mean, the glove outside, the hand railing, I don't know.
It's sealed for a reason. It's probably because it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
But there's going to be
if they were to say an ultimate perpetrator, they don't want everyone to know who it is. If she's throwing a name out there too, I guess so. Yeah,
especially without any evidence. But there's going to be another. So there's a book coming out next month, and then there's the Amazon Prime thing that's coming on next month. I know people that are interviewed in the Amazon Prime. I'm going to attempt to have them on the channel after that airs out.
Who is it? Can you tell us?
Not yet.
Oh, it's a secret. Oh man.
Yeah, that one I can't.
There are some good people in it.
Yeah, I'll say this: the person that's in it, that it wasn't in the trailer.
Oh, it wasn't in the trailer. Okay, so there's even more people that we don't even know.
Yes, there are. And so
it's like a docu-series, so it's going to be like a few episodes.
Yeah. That's what I took from it. It's a series, so I'm interested. I don't know if it's a series that they've been doing, if they've been talking about Idaho, and this is just another episode. And I guess the playlist, how we have playlists, so to speak. Maybe that's what they're referring to as far as series. But yeah.
Well, I saw Ethan's parents in there, and I was surprised. I was like, oh wow, look at them.
It's 4 parts. 4 parts, guys.
4 parts. Oh, okay, I thought it was 3 or 4. I wasn't sure. I thought maybe 3, but 4 episodes. Wow.
Nice.
Well, I'm excited for it. Yeah, I think it'll be a good watch, and just to hear what they have to say. I mean, they were there firsthand, and a lot of them, especially like Hunter and Maisie haven't been able to talk yet. I'm excited to hear, not excited, but I'm curious to hear actually what they have to say, because it was their brother they lost, and Ethan's brother. I thought when he first passed, like in 2022, I didn't think that Ethan and his brother really looked that much alike for being paternal twins. I don't know. Like, I don't know. To me, they didn't look a lot alike. But now when I see his brother, maybe it's because he's a few years older, just like, I don't know. His brother would have been a few years older too, though. But he looks a lot more like Ethan to me when I look at him. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what it is. It's something about like the eyes and maybe the hair. But I'm looking forward to seeing what they have to say. And I know that I think Ethan's parents even helped James Patterson with the book, with like
Yeah.
Ethan's part in it. So I'm thinking maybe like they're going to have chapters, individual chapters. Have you heard anything from Steve or anybody?
I know that Steve isn't a part of it. Him and Jeff are not a part of the Amazon, from what I understand.
Uh-huh.
I understand that they're a part of a Netflix, and so they get a lot of flack, right? Because a lot of people are saying that they're the ones that release information and all this other crap.
Yeah.
They violated the gag order. They haven't violated anything.
They haven't.
The Netflix, there was a contact with, I guess, like a firm that wanted them to go through with the Netflix thing, but they wanted it to air before the trial. And the Gonsalves just said no, they wouldn't do anything before the trial. And so they got with a different company, and it's still through Netflix. And so Netflix is not going to air it, but after the trial. And they are working with an author to have a book out there, and that book is going to be coming out after the trial. I'm also going to have that author on the channel, and we're going to promote the book just like I did with Howard Bloom.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but all that stuff's happening after the trial. So,
well, that'll be good for something for after for them.
Exactly. And also because, they don't want to violate anything. They don't want to get kicked out of not being able to go attend their, the trial that, associated with their daughter's murder. And so, they don't want, like I said, they don't want to get kicked out or any of those things. So they're doing things legit by the book. That's why they have an attorney. They have an attorney so they can run by all these things. When I interviewed Steve, we did that as a recorded video, and then we sent it out to his attorney, and I had my attorney look at it, and we made sure that we wouldn't violate any gag order or anything like that before it came out. And that's because we want to make sure and ensure that we don't do those things. Now, I've gotten a lot of flack about people saying that I violated some sort of gag order, but nobody can point anything that I've shown or done that's violated the gag
families are allowed to talk about their loved ones.
Exactly.
They're allowed to talk about their, like, what they think about the case too. Exactly. If they're attorneys that aren't supposed to be talking.
Well, even at that, I mean, what is it that the family should know? It's not like they had their detective hats on and they were looking for clues at the crime scene. They weren't there.
Well, it's not like they're getting any information.
Exactly. And so, but Brian Kohberger's defense team, they were opposed to things like vigils and things like that because they felt that it was unfair and unjust to their client, that it showed some sort of prejudice that people couldn't celebrate. They thought that the celebration of life was a prejudice against Brian Kohberger, and those type of things. And it's ridiculous. It's redonkulous. It's whatever you want to call it.
If this was any other case, this wouldn't be happening. I feel like. Well, like with the IGG and stuff, everyone is like, that's junk science, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, Golden State Killer's behind bars and nobody's talking about him.
Well, at the end of the day, if you think it's junk science, throw it out. It's not used. At the end of the day, it's his DNA that matched the knife sheath. It's not the DNA of his cousin or whoever else was in that IGG. The IGG was merely a point in the direction because the folks with the IGG didn't test Brian Kohberger's DNA. Yeah. That was the Idaho State lab that tested Brian Kohberger's DNA with a swab, and they tested it towards the connection of the DNA that was left on the knife sheath. So, the way you test the IGG to ensure if it's accurate is if you test the suspect that you think that is involved. Yeah. If it comes back negative, that means you did it wrong. If it comes back positive, that means you did something right. And so
apparently they did something right with all them zeros. It was 27 zeros. I mean, I couldn't imagine being Brian and hearing that. I'd be like, I'm a criminal justice. I got my bachelor's in criminal justice and applied science. And if someone told me those numbers, I would be crying. I'd be like, oh, I'm done. And I mean, he knows what DNA is. He knows the DNA, he knows the science, he knows how it all works. I mean, and he's getting all the discovery. So he's seeing more than what we've probably even seen, what we even know.
Oh yeah.
So
I mean, the biggest teller is the fact that his own attorney doesn't know where he was that night. When they were demanding his alibi, there was a situation where the defense was crying that they wanted Brian Kohberger's call detail records. Now, we didn't know that at the time, that's what they wanted because they were under seal. There was like the 20th, the 15th, discovery or whatever. Little did we know that Cy was wrong about the length and time that those call detail records were retained, and that it was only for 7 days. But the defense didn't understand that, and even Ann Taylor mentioned it multiple times in court that much of their motions were because of that. Well, anyway, so man, I think I forgot where I was going. What was I saying before that?
Cy
Oh yeah.
Um,
So the call detail records, those weren't saved for after 7 days, but that was a big part of their arguments very early on, and they
yeah.
stuck with it for the longest time. And
Mhm.
man, I had a
Oh,
point with
I
it.
remember everybody was going to Cy Ray. They were like, Cy Ray's going to come out here and save Brian Kohberger.
Oh yeah, and I remember. So they were. So there was the argument that at that time, during these discovery things, Bill Thompson was requesting and demanding the alibi of Brian Kohberger. And there was a court hearing in which Ann Taylor had said that they've been requesting this discovery. They know they have it because there's other people, and this is the 38,000 other AT&T, persons that were downloaded. So this is why we know that that's what she was referencing to it.
Mhm.
And Thompson's like, we can't give her what we don't have, which was Brian Kohberger's advanced timing records.
Yeah.
And then after that, they requested the alibi, and Ann Taylor says something to the effect like, well, I can't, this is all we know, and I can't give you what we don't have.
Yeah.
And what she had at that time was that Brian Kohberger is at no time saying where he was at any specific time or place, just that he was east, southeast, and west of Moscow at, throughout the time, and he was driving by himself.
Yeah.
And so what that told me was that even Brian Kohberger didn't tell her more than that.
Yeah.
He never told her anything, and she still doesn't know, because by law, because of the demand and all that other stuff, she can't go up there and say that she doesn't know if she knows. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And so that should be a big clue. Why wouldn't your attorney not know where you were that night, unless your attorney tells you? Because I'm assuming that conversation goes like this: like, hey, where were you that night? Unless you don't want me to know where you were.
No, you put it a little bit. You put it a little different than I put it. I said, I wonder if Ann Taylor sat him down and said, "Hey, did you do this crap or not?" Like, because I wonder if she asked him. I'd be curious to know. I mean, if I was a defense attorney, maybe I'd want to know. I don't know, but I mean,
Well, you kind of have to.
yeah.
If you're
I mean, they
gonna.
could always lie to you, but I think you would know, right?
Well, I think you want to word it that way, so that way you have plausible deniability. That way you can go in there and say you believe that this person is innocent.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it would be written all over my face. I couldn't be a defense attorney anyway. So I'd be like, I can't help you. I can't help you, sir. But no, I think that they have
I
a lot
know
of
a lot
evidence.
of folks are saying that they don't think that she would have asked, where were you? I think that's why I said the question would be like, if you want me to know where you were, not
Like,
necessarily like anything further than that.
or can you point
Because
me in the direction of where some stuff is that tells me where you were?
well, the reason why you ask in the manner that I asked is because if he isn't in fact innocent, let's just say that he is getting railroaded and he is innocent. Well, you want to go and look in the right place to go find evidence to prove that he was somewhere else. Like if he said, no, I was at the Walleye Park at 4:00. Well, she's probably going to go out there and try to pull something, surveillance and things of that nature. Now, that's why you ask, like, do you want me to know? If you don't, just stay quiet and you leave it at that. You don't ask the question further than that. You know what I'm saying?
He's good at staying quiet. That's for sure. We watched where he stood or sat quiet the other night, and I was like, it got me angry all over again. I was like, why is he just sitting there, not saying no, Your Honor, yes, Your Honor? like he was going to do something different this time.
I think she did that. For Skylar Mead too. She didn't enter a plea.
I think I heard that. So that's her. I guess that's her way of doing things.
That's her MO.
Yeah, I guess that's her way of staying on the clock longer.
Maybe.
I mean, 200 an hour. You're not going to get that when you're, doing DUIs or whatever it is, or DVs, or like lowercase, cases. If they're not murders, or it's this is a mass murder. I mean, this is going to be her only Brian Kohberger case. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like this will probably be her only case of this magnitude.
True.
I've never seen anything like this before. And I've been around for a lot of true crime cases, and I've never seen anything quite like Idaho 4. I guess it's the internet too.
Yeah. It's definitely more and more folks interested in it. But I do got to get going. I want to thank you so much for inviting me. Yes, this was fun. We should do this again sometime.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Thank you so much for coming up and answering some of our questions.
Yes, ma'am. You have a great night, and thank
You
you to
too.
your chat for being great. You have a good night.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.